What's up everyone, I'm the one and only Zage, and as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about Fire Fist Ace, the true Flame Emperor. He's one of those pre-time skip characters that get the short end of the stick from the power system not being fully fleshed out at the time, even though the concept of Haki was first mentioned as early as the Jaya arc and first shown in the first chapter. The functions of this power system weren't clearly explained and illustrated until Luffy's training with Rayleigh. Some may consider Ace to be a smoker rival because their devil fruit powers countered each other, or think that he's just your run-in-the-mill Yonko officer because he got donutted by a Kainu. However, I'd say that Ace is actually one of the most underrated characters and is actually one of the strongest Yonko commanders that we have seen in the story. Before we delve into it though, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy content like this, as over 80% of you that clearly enjoy the content aren't subscribed, so what are you waiting for? Just press the button, and as always, your support is much appreciated. First things first, it's important to cover the canonicity of the Ace novel and One Piece episode A, as they will be important to this topic. If you don't care about this part, feel free to skip to the next chapter of the video. The Ace novel is about Ace's journey from being the captain of the Spade Pirates to becoming a son of Whitebeard. One Piece episode A is the manga adaptation of the novel, but it focuses more on Ace becoming a Whitebeard pirate. In an interview with the editors of the novels, they said they had a meeting with Oda and the writer of Volume 1, Sho Hinata. Oda gave the novel writer license to characterize Ace how he saw fit, but Oda was still involved in the creation of the novel. The editors make it clear that the purpose of the novels is to supplement the manga by expanding Ace's backstory that has already been told in the main story. It seems that the general story was created by Hinata and his editors, but the Spade Pirates' characteristics were done by Oda. The editors did say that the plot of the story was seen by Oda and past One Piece editors in order to hear their suggestions as they complete the story. Essentially, the Ace novel is a project that was supervised by Oda, but it has original material that isn't in the main story, such as characters like Mask Deuce and a marine named Iska. Now for One Piece episode A, this is a manga adaptation of the novel and is also referenced in magazine 12. In the relationship chart of Ace, Sabo and Luffy, there is a caption next to Mask Deuce which states, "As soon as Ace joined the Whitebeard Pirates, all the crew members also joined the Whitebeard Pirates." You can read about the past of Ace and the former Spade Pirates in One Piece episode A. If an official magazine is telling us to refer to the Ace manga for his backstory, then it's safe to say that it's canon to the One Piece manga. The Ace manga also referenced Ace's journey to Wano, which hadn't happened in the main story at the time of the novel's release, so the continuity of the Ace manga is consistent with the main story. Anyways, with that out of the way, we can get to how strong Ace really was. As a rookie, Ace was offered the position of a warlord, which means the government considered him to be very strong, even stronger than pre-time skip Moria, who was considered too weak to remain a warlord despite having the power to crack the island of Thriller Bark. It was also said that Ace defeated a warlord, which makes sense why the government valued his strength. 4 years ago, Ace fought Base Yamato and was portrayed to be even with her during their clashes. The fight ended in a stalemate with both of them suffering similar injuries, and it was even said in the Vibrocasts to be an even match. Base Yamato was strong enough to defend herself against Gear 2nd plus Gear 3rd Luffy, who could overwhelm OT and Page 1 with lesser attacks. It should also be noted that in these fights, Yamato isn't using advanced conquerors, so she's obviously not at full power. This is consistent as rookie Ace would later fight Jinbei for 5 days, which ended in a stalemate. This is the same Jinbei who could easily overwhelm Who's Who is portrayed as the strongest of the Flying Six. Jinbei was also strong enough to block a nerfed Big Mom's Mama Mash and force her to use more power to overwhelm him. Jinbei would then use a Vagabond Drill to send Big Mom flying off the Sunny. Just because Big Mom was nerfed due to her hunger doesn't mean that she fell off a cliff, as she was still considered a threat to her entire crew. The Ace manga expanded on the Jinbei fight, showing Ace being able to match him despite Jinbei using water to counter his flames. Ace was also strong enough to burn through Jinbei's armament haki, which is noted by Jinbei, and the narrator even states that they were evenly matched until Whitebeard arrived. After challenging and losing to Whitebeard, Ace was taken in by the Whitebeard Pirates as a prisoner with no chains. Ace attempted to kill Whitebeard several times, whether it be while Whitebeard was asleep or off guard, and Ace lost every single time. Whitebeard even says that his flame wouldn't even be strong enough to burn through his skin, despite being able to burn through Jinbei's haki. Thatch offers Ace to help him grow stronger by taking him on missions, as the battlefield is the perfect place to sharpen one's skills. Thatch pointed out that up until now, Ace had been relying on the part of his haki he's good at, which is likely referring to armament haki, as Ace can't use Conqueror's haki offensively outside of its base ability, and we don't even know if Thatch knew that Ace was a Conqueror. Ace keeps his composure and focuses on the presence of his enemy to read its attack and defeat it in one attack. Thatch was shocked by this feat and praised Ace's observation haki. Ace continued to fight Whitebeard, and over time the fight started to become less one-sided. However, his most impressive feats were in the last two fights, as he incorporated everything that he had learned so far. In their 99th fight, Ace starts with his Firefly technique and fires them exactly where Whitebeard is intending to move, showing great skill in observation haki, which Whitebeard even praises. Ace used this as a diversion to get the jump on Whitebeard, which forced him to use the Quake Fruit for the first time in all their duels to counter Ace's attack. Even though this took down Ace, Whitebeard's hand was burned for the first time as well, despite using the Quake Fruit. In their 100th and last fight, Ace's growth was emphasized by Jinbei's shock just from the initial clash. Jinbei, who had previously stalemated Ace, notes that Ace had become like a completely different person in terms of power, showing how he completely separated himself from the likes of Jinbei's level. Ace was capable of reading and reacting to Whitebeard's attack, as well as getting a mental image of what Whitebeard's attack would have done to him, which he calmly avoided. This feat right here could be interpreted as Ace showcased in Future Sight, however it should be noted that mental images aren't exclusive to Future Sight. The whole point of observation haki is the ability to sense another's presence to an elevated degree, and reading others' attacks has to do with sensing the presence or will of an attack. Rayleigh even had Luffy blindfolded during their training because observation haki allows one to see and read attacks without one's eyes through aura. Luffy even had a mental image when he predicted what Mihawk's attack would have done to him, which Mihawk highlighted Luffy's calmness, implying that he temporarily blew his observation haki in this moment, as we know that being calm is required to use observation haki. Throughout the Ace manga, Ace's observation haki had been highlighted to be at a very high level, so it wouldn't be shocking that this was a case of Future Sight, but I can understand the skepticism, so I'll let you guys decide what you think this was, but to be fair, this isn't actually 100% clear. Anyways, Ace continues to not only match Whitebeard's power, he seemingly disarms him as the Morokomogiri flies off, which is a testament to Ace's growth. Since Ace was getting nowhere in the fight, he intended to end things all by using his strongest technique, the Demon Inferno. The size of this technique dwarfed Whitebeard and covered the area they were fighting on, with the scale of the attack even being noted by the spectators. Even though Whitebeard overwhelmed Ace, the technique was still praised by Whitebeard, and the size of the technique's impact covered half of the island they were fighting on. It was only after this fight that Ace officially became a Whitebeard pirate, and after some time, he earned the position of the 2nd Division Commander. Just to summarize everything so far, Ace is a user of all three types of haki. He has shown mastery of Conqueror's haki even before becoming a fruit user, and he's noted to being highly skilled in observation haki. Although Ace using armament haki isn't explicitly shown, Thatch implies in episode A that he used to rely on his armament haki too much. It's also implied in the novel that Ace used it subconsciously against Vice Admiral Draw when he was still the Spade Captain, so it makes sense that Ace would have mastered it over time. I know a lot of you are probably thinking that Ace being a haki user was never implied in the main story, and you wouldn't be wrong, but these sort of retcons aren't actually new. For example, Rokishiki was retconned to be rooted in haki, meaning CP9 agents from pre-timeskip were actually confirmed to be haki users as seen in their V records, and characters like Crocodile or Moria who didn't show haki pre-timeskip will likely be shown to have it in the current story. It's just unfortunate that some of these characters were introduced at a time when the power system wasn't fully fleshed out, and Ace just turns out to be one of them. Ace is also the user of the Mera Mera no Mi, which is a Logia type, and the Logias are stated to be the strongest type of Devil Fruit. Ace's flame is so potent that he's capable of temporarily stopping a winter island from snowing just by being on the island. Now in the main story, Ace's major fight was against Blackbeard, who was also strong enough to become a warlord. In fact, even before eating the darkness fruit, he was strong enough to scar Shanks in the past, and Shanks made it clear that he wasn't off guard. We don't know when this fight took place or how strong Shanks was at the time, but just based on this fight, it prompted Shanks to meet Whitebeard and tell him to stop Ace from fighting Blackbeard. Blackbeard would later add Shiryu to his crew in Impel Down, who is comparable to Magellan, who was strong enough to force Crocodile, Ivankov and Jinbei to all run from him. Narratively, Yami Blackbeard should be on that tier of power, which is tough competition for most Yonko commanders. When Ace finally found Blackbeard, he easily overwhelmed the rest of his crew who tried to jump him. Blackbeard even told Van Auger and Burgess not to fight Ace as they wouldn't stand a chance. At the time, Blackbeard was only the user of the Darkless Fruit, which allowed him to not only control darkness, but negate a fruit user's ability while he's in contact with them. The latter ability caught Ace off guard the first time, which allowed Blackbeard to deal heavy damage and send him flying. After he learned about this ability, Ace pierced Blackbeard with flame spears before he was struck in the neck. Even though Blackbeard almost broke Ace's neck in this moment, which goes to show how strong Blackbeard was at this time, Ace was still able to deal heavy damage by burning Blackbeard. This has been consistent since the beginning, as Blackbeard is either knocked down or screaming when he's hit by the flames, and he uses the darkness to get rid of Ace's fire. The fight continues off screen, and in that time Van Auger comments on how Devil Fruit users are usually over reliant on their abilities. However, Ace showcased that he was a great fighter even without his powers. This gives credence to Ace being a skilled haki user, as that's the only realistic way he'd be competing without his powers against someone as strong as this version of Blackbeard. When the fight returns on screen, Ace is knocked down. However, Blackbeard is still pretty tired and has burn marks on his body. The fight ends with Ace using his strongest technique, Dai Enkai Entei, which clashes with Blackbeard's huge ball of darkness. Each of their attacks dwarfed the surrounding mountains, and their area of effect covered a large chunk of Banaro Island. Even though Ace lost this fight, he was still able to show relativity to Blackbeard somewhat, as he could keep pace with him and deal lasting damage. In the long run, Ace couldn't compete as his powers continued to be negated by the darkness. I could go on to cover his showings versus suppressed admirals and Marineford, but to be honest, these feats don't really give a clear picture of how Ace scales. It's still impressive that Ace was able to clash and melt Aokiji's pheasant beak, but this doesn't mean that Ace scales to the admirals. As for Akainu, he wields the magma fruit, which consumes and burns fire, so Ace stood no chance in their clash. Ace was able to outpace Akainu in order to sacrifice and protect Luffy, but this doesn't really tell us much about his speed either, especially considering an almost dead Whitebeard was able to land hits and overwhelm Yami Blackbeard, who's at least comparable to Ace's speed. Some may say that Jozu and Vista are stronger than Ace, and that's where I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm drawing the line. That's not to say they're weak, but at this point with the new material, that's definitely not the case. Even if we compare their feats to Ace and Marineford, there's not much difference in how they performed versus top tiers aside from the Akainu clash. Ace was always portrayed to have very high potential, as Roger believed his son would surpass him, and Whitebeard was nurturing him to be the next king. Even the duels with Whitebeard showing Ace's massive growth is just another showcase of the trajectory that Ace was heading in. It's no surprise that the world government was willing to risk going to war with Whitebeard to make sure that Ace didn't become the pirate that they all feared. All in all, Ace is a very underrated fighter in the story, and there aren't many Yonko Commander level characters that you can say have been shown to be as impressive as he was. The fact that Ace was capable of fighting a much healthier version of Whitebeard than the one that we saw in Marineford, and was able to react and even slightly damage him, speaks volumes. To put this into perspective, Kaido considered the likes of Act 1 Luffy to be utter trash. However, Whitebeard was actually impressed by Ace's full power even before becoming the 2nd Division commander. So the next time that you're ever in a conversation about one of the strongest Yonko Commander caliber fighters in One Piece, don't forget the name Portgas D. Ace. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, that'd be much appreciated. The links to my socials and Discord are in the description below, so feel free to join. I've been the one and only Sage, and until next time.